odds, there were 100-to-1 odds against, which was probably higher than it should have been, but it makes for a good round number. And the Cardinals were the big favorites because the Cardinals had won. Yeah. And like I was talking about before, they had switched to divisions that year, so nobody really knew what to expect. I mean, a lot of people didn't really even realize that they were doing it until the season started, and then suddenly, it's like the Dodgers only come in 6 times, or 12 times actually, yeah. But they played 12 times, 6 times each stadium. So the Cardinals were the big favorites, and the Cubs were really seen as an up-and-comer, although they had a couple of tough years in there as well. And they were like the Mets. This was their big season, and the Mets just essentially ruined it for them.
This past season, if we can just, I'm sure you've talked a little bit about it at Silverman.com, but this past season, how have you survived?
Well, it was actually kind of easy because it was over so early. And then seeing the Yankees win, we actually have something in the book about what happened to the Yankees in 1969, as well as the Knicks and the Jets as well. But being a Mets fan, people act like it's the end of the world. It's just a better publicized end of the world because the Mets have had this great season. They had 1986. They've had a few. They've won the pennant 2 other years. They had a couple of other teams that you thought were going to get there, including the '06 team as well as the 2 previous seasons before. But to be honest, it was a lot easier living through this last summer. And to be completely honest, I was working on this a lot of the time when they were playing. So I would, check the score. I'm like, oh, too bad they lost. And then I would get involved with something that was far more interesting that happened 40 years ago. And I'd have to say that book really did help me get through it. That's the way it goes. You can't win every year, although Yankees fans think it's a mission.
Yeah. You mentioned 2 other New York sports teams in 1969, the Jets and the Knicks. Do you think we'll ever see a season like '69 again in the Big Apple?
I don't see why we can't. There's more teams now, for one thing, but it was weird because you could conceivably have 3 teams in a row do it, and we've come close a few times, but certainly not with the Jets, but because they won in '68 at Shea Stadium to go to the Super Bowl, which they of course won, and then the following year, '69 into '70, the Knicks ended up winning their championship and beating the Lakers, who had been to 7 straight finals, or the last 7 finals they'd been to, they'd lost, and they beat them then too with a Willis Reed walking out on the court when people weren't sure he was going to play. It was just a great couple years. The Rangers were about the only ones that couldn't keep it going, but they had some interesting teams then as well.
The Jets, Broadway Joe, you have New York Mets, Tom Seaver, Willis Reed, Walt Clyde Frazier. Was there any interaction between the sports celebrities of the other sports and the '69 Mets that you're aware of?
I think there was a little. Art Shamsky had the book, The Winning Seasons, that was kind of just on this topic, and he talks about that. We didn't quite go into that as much because a lot of these guys had to work. The average salary wasn't that. Wasn't something that you could just say, well, I'll be fine until next year, because next year you could be sent down to the minors. Yeah. Several of the '69 Mets didn't make the team the following year.
Yeah. It's pre-free agency and Marvin Miller and all. There were actually players that went down to the minors. I wasn't even.
Rod Gaspar went down to the minors, and a couple of other guys did not make it back to the team. Gaspar says in his interview that it was kind of his fault, because he's like, I was on the World Series team. I scored the winning run on the bunt that hit J.C. Martin's wrist, but that was it. And J.C. Martin was traded that season, and a couple of other guys went, and then slowly over time those guys left. I think there were 10 Mets who were on the 1973 championship team, National League championship team, And by the mid '70s, I think Kuzman was just about the only, and Kranepool were about the only ones left.
Wow. Yogi Berra. Any word as to how he reacted to the '69 miracle?
It was, it was just another part of his blessed life. Everything Yogi seemed to touch would turn to gold, and he was thrilled to death. He was one of the few people in the locker room who had any kind of, he had more experience in the World Series than anybody else combined. Everyone else in the team combined, because he'd been I think 14 and won 10 of them. It was just remarkable, and he's now considered to be a Mr. Yankee, and maybe even has the greatest living Yankee nameplate or what have you. But he was a big part of the Mets. He spent 10 years with the Mets, and when they won in '73, he was the manager.
Yeah. Isn't that something you never think now that he was a Met, but he was, and it's amazing. Maple Street Press is the publisher of this, huh? So
yes.
So people should be accessing the Maple Street Press website for information?
Yes, maplestreetpress.com, but it's also available on Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble, which I was just at the one in White Plains, and they've got several copies there as well.
Wow. I just find it amazing. It really, the Amazins, about the Amazins. Would you like to do this again? What, as an editor?
A book like that? Perhaps someday, but it was a lot of work, and it was a volunteer project, so a lot of it got fit in around other stuff. But having so many other people work, and Ken Samuelson did all the proofing, and Bill Nowlin and Len Levin helped him with that as well, and it was a lot of fun, and I think I might do it again, or I might help somebody do it again. But it was great fun, and it was again, full disclosure, I was just 4 years old when they won. But now I'm an expert as much as everybody else, and even if you weren't born, the '69 Mets are the Met team for the ages.
Well, Matt Silverman, I want to thank you for taking us beyond the game, talking about The Miracle Has Landed, and hope you come back soon.
Thanks for having me again.
And this is John Vorparian saying take care. See you soon. Bye-bye for now.